we've just got a fire in the house at the moment. As you can see, this house is full of smoke. And of course, we're running around crazy because we don't want to cause fires. The smoke went into basically both rooms. We're just calling Riley, and basically, as you can see, we're full of smoke in here and full of smoke in here. We've isolated what it is, but when I show you what it is, this is really one of those things where the care, and you've got to be so careful because it's fire danger at the moment, and we're right in the middle of fires all around us, let alone starting them. Just to show you what's caused it, we're running up a FT101 that came out of Geelong, and she's really bad. It was actually working for a second, and I sort of thought at the time, it's probably a driver tube or something causing it some damage. It ran up perfectly fine, no bangs or anything, but I tell you what, talk about cause of panic in this household. This transformer, as you'll see, has absolutely gone up in smoke. As fast as $300 I've ever spent. It absolutely filled up 3 rooms full of smoke, and we were running around trying to work out exactly where the smoke had come from. Just hang on, I have to go have a drink. I'll put it on pause. Sorry, we're just getting some windows open and getting all the smoke out of here. But this must have really got hot, and as you can see, there's just full of smoke. Thanks, mate. Just getting a drink from Riley. Whilst this has been a you have to excuse us for being a bit worried about 3 rooms full of absolutely chock-a-block full of smoke, but with today's current temperatures and the fire danger, you sort of walk back into a room full of smoke and you think, right, okay, is it, and the first thing you think is it coming from inside the room or is it coming from outside the room? Now, I didn't remember any smoke outside when I walked in from one side of the house, but that doesn't mean the other side's not on fire. Anyway, the house is not on fire, and we're just clearing the smoke out. We're just opening all the windows through here, and we just got getting fans going, getting all the smoke out of here, but we smell like we've been in a bushfire, I can tell you. Oh, geez, this stuff's toxic. Yeah, it's a bit crazy because we've got safety switches on our benches and bits, and this must have just cooked very slowly and just basically just took out a winding finally. But man, I don't think I've had anyone had anything that scary for a while. When you walk into a room and there's just absolutely, you cannot see the benches because the smoke is just pluming out everywhere. That's crazy. Okay, so we're just starting to clear a bit of smoke. This is a good 10 minutes on, and as you can see, it's still smoky. It's like, how much smoke can a transformer give? My God. Tell you what, we're just talking about why the safety switch didn't cop it. And it's, I suppose, the theory of safety switches, it wouldn't have. Although I bet you I find a bloody big fuse in the AC line on this thing that shouldn't be there, because that's the other thing that you would have thought. And see there's our view out the window with the cows and that. Hey cows, why didn't you tell us that the place was on fire? God. Anyway, okay, so what a moment in life. This smell's going to take a while. Oh, jeez. As you know, guys, I've been playing around with doing the knobs. This is a knob for another one. I've got my other 2020, the one I'm keeping inside, but this is one that we're going to sell. So I'm cleaning all the knobs for it. This is what we do for people. How's that, eh? And the idea was to start getting through these 101s, as you know. All these ones over here. And I thought, we'll get started on those. And, yeah. Well, the first one, I must admit, this is one we bought in from Geelong, and it's, so it hasn't been here that long, actually. I knew it was running a little bit low on power from what one of the chaps said to me about it. But And when I pulled the lid, I sort of thought at the time, I thought, look, I wasn't going to waste a set of 6JS6s on this old girl, but I sort of thought, we might just sort of try a driver and give it a go. But as you can see, this has got incredibly hot. Incredibly hot. Poured out enough smoke to cover 3 rooms, I suppose. So, and look at the front on it. It's actually a really nice front. I mean, you've got to argue that it's a very nice radio, apart from the fact that it smokes for a living. Yes, this one's. I don't know. I get a bad feeling about playing around with radios after they've had big burn ups, etc. I just think you're always chasing your tail. And you're always sort of tending to just have one problem after another after they've had a few issues. But if we find an old transformer for one, I suppose it's worth swapping out to have a look at. Could be just the transformer that's fused over and given the trouble. You can sort of see in the windings there where it's got incredibly hot. Excuse me. Geez, I tell you, it's still. Yeah. The other thing I didn't like about this when it arrived, actually, now, and hate this idea, didn't know about this, but someone's been in there and fitted taken the Yaesu jack out, Yaesu jack out there and put a just normal IEC socket. And then there's more going on the back here, which, sort of, something's going on. Now, let me grab a normal FT101. So, here's the back of a normal FT101. This is actually an E, so a little bit later model series, but and the difference may be there. To be fair, that may be the DC to DC inverter. I can't remember now to run them off. Let me. I've actually got a brand new. Nothing's brand new, but it's an FT101. But I've got another FT101, which we can actually have a look at, which is not an E. Let's have a look at the back, what they used to do. But hang on. Okay, so I'm really hating the 101 that we fired up because as you can see, so they've put an IEC socket on the back. They've taken the DC to DC inversion off, and this is a really mint one that we've got in the box here. That's not a mark on this thing. It's beautiful, but that just gives you an idea of what they're up to. So the one we've got sitting back in here, unfortunately, look, I just turn this down. My 950 sitting away here. Unfortunately, it's just too far gone. It's my biggest purchase cost-wise of spares ever in my life, because I'm just not interested in playing around with something like this. There's just so much being done to it. I'll be interested to get the bottom off actually and just have a look at the wiring. Let's have a quick look, eh? Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm just hating this radio more. I really am. Okay. There's a million things here not to like. Just to show you, we've got no power connected to it. We have zeroed out our valves as far as making sure there's nothing going to zap us there. Oh, jeez, the smell off this bloody thing. I'll tell you what. I see why the firefighters, have so much problem with smoke inhalation. Geez, this gets to you. Oh, there's just stuff going on in here that just, I don't know. This is a mess. Absolute. Look, you know what? We really, I sort of thought this radio had been fired up not that long ago, which it had, to be fair. So we didn't bother pulling covers before we fired it up. But had I known all of what's going on here, yeah, let's just pull this fuse. I'm a bit interested in why that didn't blow. Okay, and here's your problem. You put a 20 amp fuse in one of these things, yeah. I honestly, seriously don't understand why people do some things, because it's dangerous, and fires start because of this. So, rule number one, from memory, I mean, this fuse should be about, look, I'll have to check one, but I reckon they're 4 or 5 amp on the AC side. look, I will double check that, and I'll put a note in the YouTube file, but I'm pretty sure 4 or 5 amp. Put a 20 amp in fuse in there. When the transformer starts to give trouble, and you've, you know that it's going to have a bad day and draw loads of current, I can pretty much tell you what's happened here to some extent. So back to the illustration of the transformer that's burned itself out. The question is, how did the transformer burn itself out when the fuse should basically blow when it sees a current level at 240 volts when it's got the correct fuse in there? Alright, so this is how it works. When you've got a larger fuse, much larger fuse, 20 amp fuse, this acts like a radiator. It'll just keep heating up, and it'll just heat up and heat up and heat up and heat up, and and this is why when I ran into the room, because as you can see, this fuse hasn't blown yet. It's got very hot, but it hasn't blown yet. So one of the first things I did when I came into this room, when we needed to find the fault, we've got a subboard on this room, so I isolated the subboard, and that was kind of one of the primary things to do. So basically, where all the smoke was, you're isolating the power so that if you've got a fuse, who knows, anything, anywhere, at least you've cut the power to it if it's still, sort of wanting to catch fire. But, obviously, once we isolated what it was, we isolated the radio, fired up the room again, and went, okay, well, great, we've isolated the fault apart from the smoke. But this is a real big warning to people. If you don't have the right fuse, go get the right one. Seriously, this radio has gone up in smoke, and don't get me wrong, it would have had a fault. This transformer was faulty, no question about it. But ideally, what happens is transformer draws this, unusual amount of current, and it says, "Hey," the fuse says, "No, that's not right." Bang, clicks the fuse. So you go searching for a fault. You find out that the volts are wrong on the transformer anyway, and you get away with not having to do all this chasing smoke and getting all the smoke out of the room. We're just starting to clear now. I'll be honest with you, we're probably about 25 minutes from the smoke, and we're just starting to clear now, which is good. The smell's going to take days, but it's just starting to sort of clear out a bit, so that's great. But this has been a lesson for all of us. You could argue, should we have checked the fuse on the unit, being an unknown unit that's been sold to us from someone down in Geelong? Yes, yep, absolutely. The telltale should have been the power cord on the back, the IEC that was fitted there. There's a number of reasons why covers should have been pulled off this thing before we plugged it in. And I'm just going to admit that straight out because I smart enough to know when you've done something stupid. But for all intents and purposes, it did fire up initially. As I said, very low on power. And biggest mistake we made is running off to grab a 12 BY7 just to see whether or not that increased the power a bit. And basically coming back to room, I would have been, now that's a good point, I probably was away 5 or 6 minutes getting that 12 BY7. I was hunting through a couple of hours and that, and as you can see I actually found one, not that it's much bloody good as now. 12 BY7 in the box. So that part of the story is a bit of a success, eh? Anyway, alright, well look, I think we were going to call this video How Not to Do It. And Peter Newman warned me about this years ago, year ago at least, and he's right. Sometimes we become overconfident as radio techs or as hobbyists, and we just think we can just keep plugging things in and they'll just keep working. And this is a great example of, well, not if the person before has set you up to fail to some extent. Now, don't get me wrong, he didn't do it on purpose. He didn't set me up to fail on purpose. He just put the wrong fuse in, and the transformer, which, if you have a look, there's some really strange mountings going on there. So when we have a look at that, this radio, this has been a Bitzer radio. And you know what, the front, if you said anybody wants a front for an FT101, I've got a beautiful front. I'm not sure I've got anything behind it that's beautiful, but only cost me $300, so just oh, you got to laugh at these things. All right, anyway, as I said, good lesson on just being a bit more careful, and checking and isolating. Excuse me, sorry, the smoke's still a bit bad in here. The Just double checking things, especially when there's an IEC where particularly where a Yaesu connector, we should have gone in there and checked that. The more I think about it, I can't do anything but slap myself on the wrist for that, because we should have checked that it sort of really was a fairly clean install. Okay, 73s to you all the best, and thanks very much for having a look at our little fire in the Radio Shack. But certainly better a fire in the Radio Shack than fire in the house, which of course we really didn't know at the time, and because we could not see more than 2 feet in front of us with the amount of smoke that was in the room, so I can tell you. 73s from VK3CM, JDW229 on the other one, and thanks very much for having a look at this. Don't criticise me too much. I'm putting my hand up. I'm saying definitely we could have done this one better, but I'm actually showing our faults, because I want you not to do the same thing. So anyway, hopefully that sort of sinks in. 73s, all the best.